so
All
much.
right.
Well, we're back and we're ready to talk about some hard subjects. I mean, I feel like that's every week.
Always.
Uh, but new horrors, this is the weekend after the 4th of July weekend. And first
America's
off, let's start.
250th.
Yeah, let's start there.
Woo.
How was your 4th of July weekend?
Well, being sensory avoidant, I hated it. um, I just always hate the fourth. I know we've talked before. I was like a paid mascot for a fireworks stand in like my teens or whatever, which is a hilarious fun fact about me that I should honestly pocket and remember whenever those prompts come up for like icebreakers. I never really
Mm-hmm.
thought of that because I hate those on the spot. Come up with something interesting. I can't do that. Okay, pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pops and all that. I will say, like, we moved from a like more, how do I say this, PC, rednecky area
Mm-hmm.
to like a more not rednecky area, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's better. Um, so the last couple of years, well, no, last year we weren't in this house yet. So this was our first fourth, and honestly, it was better. I just had to wear my noise canceling headphones. I went down to the
Mm-hmm.
basement, used my swing for a while. Sensory swing, folks. Sensory swing. Not anything else. Um, yeah, I just tend to avoid. And we have cats. They don't seem to be as affected by the pops and the booms and
Mm-hmm.
but I think that there's like a city limit ordinance or something. I didn't look it up. So yeah. How about you?
Okay.
Did you do anything exciting or fun?
Um, so I've made it a point in the last couple years to just like I don't really care to celebrate the 4th of July, and it was
Same.
interesting noticing there was like for this is the first time I've seen like a big, large number of people feeling like they don't feel like celebrating this country, and it's
Yeah.
interesting on this like big number of 250. There's a
Great.
large sentiment about that across different ethnicities and races and nationalities,
Mm-hmm.
identities. Um, but we did go to San Francisco where there was this like jazz festival.
Oh, cool.
And it was on like Saturday, Sunday, and it was really nice. And we were able to go up and down, and that was really awesome, really fun to experience, being with people. You know what I mean? Eating,
Yeah.
and the FIFA World Cup is on, so that was really fun. It was nice to have the connectedness. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah.
went back pretty early, probably around like 3. Got back home by like 4:45, 5 o'clock, and then we just relaxed and chilled, played the video game, and went to bed, and that was nice for me. For me, that was nice.
Yeah. Totally.
But on the 4th of July, there was. Let me share my screen. Members of a white nationalist organization, Patriot Front, um, and they were able to take this picture where they this is before they decided to march on the
You mean
Washington
intimidate.
D.C.
You don't mean
Yes,
March.
yes,
You mean
intimidate.
intimidate.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what
very
I
much
am.
so. I mean, I'm using quote unquote neutral language, and then I'm going to
That's fine.
further explain and analyze, in
I'll
my
take it
opinion.
where it needs to
So,
go. I'm white.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
do it.
thank you. So this is one of the photos, and this one has gone viral of this woman being surrounded by these basically KKK members, these Nazis, neo Nazis, what have you, right? But pictures that people don't seem to know or have seen that often are this one, where this black man was just surrounded by all of them, and then this one where this identified he's a Filipino gay man that was surrounded, and he
That's scary.
later, yeah, he later said that he was terrified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's just taking his regular commute. I made a video about this, right? And I said
Hmm.
that this and what they did, I said it's violence. I also said it is terrorism.
Yeah.
And I talked about
Agree.
how power often gets to define these terms. What is violence? What is terrorism?
Hmm.
And after I made this, I made this post, and I ended up with. Let me go to my profile. If you could see, look at all these likes to comments. So basically, I got what people on the internet called. Oh, you can't see that.
Yeah, it
My
didn't
bad.
change. I still see the guy wearing the mask incorrectly,
Yeah, share.
which always bothers me.
Yeah. So here.
Small thing.
So
There it is.
this is it. You can see the likes to comments, which usually means a ratio, right? And
Hmm.
most of the comments are, of course, um, people saying this is one
Oh,
of the
there's
most
me.
concerning comments that yeah, there's you, um, because a lot of people are defending the Nazis and using whataboutism. So the most often comment I get is this whataboutism, and they're comparing this a black woman being surrounded by these
Oh
KKK,
my
Nazi, neo-Nazi members
God.
to this one individual who happens to be black with dreadlocks who ended up stabbing this woman, right? So they're saying
In one
all
instant.
black people are this guy, and then and then I'm not even saying all white people are this person, but they're confining all black people to be
Yeah.
like this guy, and they're saying who made it home safely. Um,
Yeah.
Nobody's calling for this guy. Everybody's saying to free him or whatever. He is being punished to the full extent of the law. Good, you know what I mean? He did
Yeah.
a crime. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So what they're often saying is, saying that, and they're trying to make it seem like all black people are violent because this one
Yeah.
black person was, and that would be like me saying all white people are Epstein, or all white people are Trump the rapist, racist, or all
A
white
lot
people
of
are
them are.
exactly are a school shooter. You know what I mean? So they do a
The
lot of
school
that for
shooters are
me,
always white. Every
and
time.
then
Mass
they
shooters are always white.
yeah
No one,
yeah
no one can say anything to that. Mic drop.
exactly. And then they keep on posting like, "What about this? Is this considered violent?" And what they're doing is they're posting this
What
group,
about ism?
and yeah, whataboutism, and I'm explaining that this is a black militia that marched in
Yeah.
Louisville, in
Context.
2020, demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. So somebody was harmed, and then they
Unjustly.
marched. Yeah, so it's a response to
Breonna Taylor
harm
was
being
just
done.
sleeping.
Exactly. So, so it's like it's really frustrating, and I thought it was just me that was getting all this. You know
Oh
what I
no.
mean?
Not just you.
But I looked and I found, oh, stop sharing that, and I'll start sharing, share screen this, where it's like, okay, look, same thing here. He talked about it. He got the same kind of thing with the comments. Same thing here. White dude talks about it. Same kind of comments. You know
Oh,
what I mean? We're seeing a
yeah.
trend. We're talking about it. And then you see in the comments. It's a constant thing. So
Yep.
one of the comments that we keep on seeing is who is the safest. So this
I
is
have
an
thoughts.
super problematic comparison. I'm gonna say mine and then you say your thoughts. A white supremacist group surrounding a black woman versus black people existing
Yeah.
surrounding a white woman.
Yeah.
These two things are not equivalent. You can go ahead now.
Oh no. What you're saying is spot on. And the thing is, like, if I'm surrounded by a white supremacist group who's known to be aggressive and violent and hateful and all of these things, like, and this is the thing, like, part of the culture, even though I myself am white, I am a woman. I identify as a woman. I appear as a woman. These groups are not safe to me either because the part of the culture is that they are all important. They do not care what women, minorities, anybody who does not look like them or does not identify as them. uh, the just Okay, so I read a book recently that was basically on this type of culture because I'm trying to understand, how do you get to this point? What do you believe? How can I like argue this? um, the mental gymnastics that I had to do to get through that book and to see what their thoughts were on not only people of color, but women of any color or non color is absolutely barbaric. And so I look at this picture, and the first picture, I feel for that girl. I'm assuming I shouldn't assume gender, but I feel for that person. And I would not feel safe in that environment because I know everyone around me wants to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I were a person of color, I would feel even more terrified. Um, in the second picture, I just feel like that's a normal day on public transit in my city. And like there have been several times that I have stepped into public places because now I live in a very diverse area. And when I step into a place and I only see white people, my red flag is instantly up. I'm like, okay, so this is a signal that I should at least be on guard because maybe the clientele just happened to be all white people. Maybe but also it's like, okay, I start looking, is there a Confederate flag anywhere? Is there any sort of like visual symbol that tells me that this is not a place that I want to provide money to? Like, I'm looking for those things. And where we lived before looked more like the first picture, and I never felt comfortable. And I know that that's me and my experience, but like I cannot imagine if my skin were a different color how more amplified that would be. And so like that's just what I experience. And I it's apples to oranges in my opinion when I look at a picture like this. You can't even really, context is important. A lot of context is lacking in a lot of those arguments, and we can talk about some of those arguments because I think that the nature of how those arguments are delivered are also very hostile. So I digress.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things is um, people are like, oh, but are they physically attacking? Do they have a history of physically attacking? Like
It doesn't
the
matter.
terror that they instill by
Yeah.
being a virulent hate group, a white supremacist group, is terror, and it is violence. It is psychological, it is mental, it is environmental terror and violence. And because so many people that are white and defending them don't see black people as people, they can't put themselves in the shoes of black people saying, hey, they might feel scared, they might feel worried
Yeah.
because white people see that, and that's like, to them that might be their brother, their uncle, their cousin, their friend. And when you're not in danger and you can't empathize with somebody who might be in danger, you say that there is none, right?
Right.
And I mean, so that really, I think, is a huge problem. I think that so many of the comments that I received on this were just like, so when it comes to the
Very
comments,
hateful.
I want to address two things. One, we know that there is an incredible amount of bots, especially bots that are attacking black people, black creators talking about black content. But then there's also just a lot of racism around the world. So um, some of the comments that I feel like are problematic are just so like everyone survived the train ride, and it's like, but you don't like, just because you survived doesn't mean that harm wasn't done. Just because
Right.
you weren't physically attacked doesn't mean harm and violence wasn't inflicted. And this goes to like abuse and emotional abuse in relationships.
Yeah.
And people can't understand that. So when I'm trying to define violence in a way that a lot of people have not heard because honestly it doesn't affect them, then it's difficult for them to accept and understand and see, especially if they're coded in this layer of anti-black racism, so it's always the whataboutism is always like the first thing. What about this instead of that? um, so it's like somebody else, no profile, no nothing, three friends. So what does that
Right.
say?
That's hard.
No black or brown people were harmed in the making of this video, and it's like, yeah, there was harm done. Who are you to say that they weren't harmed? you
These are
know
the people that don't believe in like mental health and
exactly.
emotional um, maturity. That's the word I'm looking for.
Exactly. And I don't know what I said to this. I was just sometimes I
Yeah.
just meme, it's like, oh damn, that's
Right.
crazy.
Sometimes it's just fun to troll because, like, I feel like you and I do a troll in a way that's not like we don't call names, we don't like insult, we just kind of like make a joke of it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing that's different. I feel that a lot of the comments that you've gotten, they're bothersome because it's like not only is this like a person I know, and like I feel like you're attacking a person I know who's actually very highly intelligent. Most of these people do not have education. I vet them, and that's
Yeah.
one of my new pastimes. I like go through and I'm like, oh, okay, is this a bot? Is this like a person? Usually there's only a high school diploma, and usually it's like somebody who's not educated, not poo-pooing on like not getting education, but it's like you're challenging the ideas of somebody who is well read, well researched, and has tons of education, but they would say that, oh, well, that's a part of the brainwashing and blah blah blah. And it's like, y'all, you can't win. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like they don't have this lived experience. They don't have the feeling of like walking alone home at night with a man following them, that you don't know what that man is going to do. Like that's just ultimately what I bring this down to. So that feeling on the bus, every single woman has probably had that feeling. And like if you're a white woman and you're in those comments defending the actions of white men, you're just as bad if not worse, because you have felt that feeling. And I would challenge any woman who's like saying, oh, well, I don't know what that, I don't know what you're talking about. I have felt so unsafe walking home or like being out in public before because a man makes me feel uncomfortable. And usually, guess what? It's a white man. It's
Mm-hmm.
not usually a person of color. So, I digress.
Yeah.
Again, this
And one
this
of the
topic just
things,
makes me so angry.
yeah, same. And one of the things is like the comments of the if it were black people on the bus, she wouldn't, and a white woman, she wouldn't feel safe. There's a thing that it's like when your skin color is a weapon, is seen as a weapon, you can never disarm. You can never
Yeah,
be seen
true.
as nonviolent, um, because it's just, and we see that with the way that cops interact with. I just had a terrible interaction yesterday with a cop, and just
I'm not a cop
walking my
fan.
dog. It's me neither. But I mean, when they see our skin tone as a weapon, everything we do is violent. And it really sucks because there's this like long history of the propaganda of making it so that black people seem as violent and harmful, when really it's like, why are we even here in the first place? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
people are
harm done,
stereotypic.
exactly. The harm done is on such a different magnitude. We're not even on the same level, and we can never be.
Right.
World War One, World War Two, every war. You know what I mean? So I just, it's really frustrating, and it goes to the fact that like just being on the internet. Like one of the things I said is that a lot of times this is how it feels just being on the internet.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm fortunate enough, I don't know if it's fortunate is the right word, but like I grew up on Xbox Live. So
Uh,
as a
Don't
kid,
talk about
being on Xbox Live when everybody had just gotten a mic and it was very early on, I
you were
heard
using the
everything.
F
So
slur and the R
yeah,
slur and all
so
of
I
it.
was I was born in it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this ain't nothing new to me. There's nothing you could say new under the sun that will offend me. I'm sure people will try, but like to me personally, it's just like, man, this is what it is being black in the world. And there's nowhere you can go to escape anti-blackness or
Right.
the harm that Eurocentric whiteness perpetuates across the world, unfortunately. Now, one thing that I do want to bring up that I want to say is like a really good thing that I think that a lot of, if you consider yourself and want to be a ally or a co-conspirator or an accomplice, this is something that really made me happy after I made that video. Somebody sent this to me in my DMs. Rarely ever get a good DM. Someone said, "Hi, I
Yeah.
recently started following your content. I absolutely love what you post as a dad, psych, neuroscience nerd, and aspiring therapist. Yes, I'm an older one. I'm obviously white. In addition to thanking you for your wonderful, informative, and educational work, I wanted to thank you for showing an unabashedly for showing up unabashedly as a black man despite the racist forces discouraging you. Though I try to vote against racism, canvass for politicians who will fight against it, and educate myself and my son so that we can both be effective anti-racists, I can feel that there is still pockets of racism lurking inside me from growing up in this country with the pervasive message of white superiority and non-white inferiority. So selfishly, every time I learn from you, I am grateful that it is another chance for my nervous system to reprogram just a little more. So I just want to express my deep, heartfelt gratitude for you. You make the world so much better in so many ways. Thank you for being you. And this
Oh,
really touched me. So all those thousands of comments that I received,
yeah.
this really made a difference to the comments, the thousands of comments I'm still receiving right now.
Hmm.
So if you want to show up and be an ally, co-conspirator, accomplice, or just support people doing the work, messages like this really are meaningful. And I think that it's important that I highlight this. I didn't include their name or anything because I don't know what kind of
Right.
response other people are going to be, providing. But I really appreciate him coming to me and saying this because it shows me that amongst the the incalculable volume of racism and anti-black bigotry that there are people in the real world who care, who are white, who are learning, who are deconstructing, who appreciate what I'm doing, who find value in it and can see. So I'm not just, you know, sending talking to racists all the time who are always going to be against me. It feels like something clicked, something worked, something is being changed, and the impact I'm trying to have is happening, and that I just cannot be happier. This is why I do what I do, and getting that kind of message really just changes the game for me.
Oh, completely. And this is well worded. And like, I had a thought initially when, you were kind of going through it, where I thought he was trying to make it about him and what he does to make himself feel better, but that's not it. And
Hmm.
so, like, that's one thing that I see a lot that I feel should be said as a white person. When you are providing the support, try not to make it about making yourself feel better because that's not the point. The point is to show your support for the individual who's giving their emotional labor and the one who's, willingly gave of their time and all of that that they didn't have to do. And so everything that you do is voluntary. Everything that you do is, free, and it's because you want to change the world. And so with that said, that emotional labor is unpaid. It's undervalued by most people, clearly. And so, give that credit where the credit is due and do not make it about yourself. Because so often I see, well, and this goes back to my ABA isn't like that. So it connects
Hmm.
to all these different topics. And so if you're saying, well, I give a cent and I do this and blah, 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 you're missing the point. Because until all this harm is gone, like nobody's innocent. Nobody is, um, yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that well. My words are hard because this is, once again, a hard topic, but don't make it about you is what I'm
No,
trying to say. This person did a very good job not making it. It's like, hey, here are the actions I try to do, but I'm still learning.
yeah,
I'm doing the best I can. And that is different than, but I do this, this, this.
yeah. I think it was 10 out of 10 no notes. They weren't trying to come for the white saviorism.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
simply
totally.
just saying, like, hey, thank you for what you do. I feel like I'm learning. I feel like it's helping me. And, he's recognizing the racist forces against me. And, like, so it's like, he can see these things. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, as a black person, you're concerned that, can white people see these things? and I'm trying to express and show and share. And so often, you're hit with the opposite, and it's like, damn, why are all these people? How many of them are actually bots? How many are actually people? And also, why would you create a bot to do the racist stuff? You know what I mean? It's just
Well,
so crazy. You know what I mean?
the people in power are using the bots to reflect their own values, and that is the
Exactly.
most disturbing part to me.
Exactly. And it's like there's not bots going the other way. You know what I mean? They're
No.
not. So
So,
it's just really, really. This was really heartwarming to see in a
yeah,
sea of racism.
well done, anonymous person.
Exactly.
Well
Yeah.
done.
So thank you. We can much appreciated. Let me see if I can react to it, give you a clap,
Yay! So,
applaud, all of that.
question that I thought of with this.
Hmm.
So I know that there are certain words that are banned on social media spaces. Facebook seems to be the least filtered, obviously. And I know that you and I have both been called an FNR by
Hmm.
people. And I consider that a hate term. I consider
Yeah.
that, not okay to say. Um, I have not seen anybody call you an N, which is good. But I'm
Hmm.
also thinking that Facebook bans that. So, like, is that a thing that is banned? Like, we can't use slurs, but like, what constitutes a slur? I'm just not sure how the filtration system works, but it bothers me because it's like people are still using hateful terms.
I mean, there are ways that people try to get around it. I think that a lot of times there's like community content where it just like kind of bans certain slurs that it automatically does, and
Yeah,
sometimes that's it's too general, you know what I mean, and sometimes it's not specific enough, you know what I mean, and I'll report something and it'll be like we didn't find anything racist, and it's
I
like of course
report
you
a
didn't.
lot of comments
Yeah,
that you get, and it's
yeah,
always so. I'm doing it too. I'm trying to
yeah. No, I
come
know,
out of
I know.
But it's like it's so frustrating. It's like, do you care about nothing? Clearly, Mark Zuckerberg, you don't. So maybe that's why I like TikTok better because like we can't even say white really in
Yeah.
regard to like people because it can be considered, a hate term. And it's like, well, okay, I don't know. The difference is astounding across platforms, is what I'm trying to say. But that also goes to like the type of comments you get and the way those comments are delivered. I, you and I have had these conversations about the hierarchy of toxicity on social media, and TikTok is like the last one out of any of them. Instagram's not bad, but like when I see the comments on Facebook and YouTube, holy
Oh
cow!
yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
you all are real emboldened. That is sick.
And it also has a lot to do with the governing body
Hmm.
or the administration that's in the White House, especially because they are able to put pressures on the companies to change their algorithms. People see like free speech, free speech, free speech. The only time that I hear people complain about free speech really is when they feel like they're not allowed to be racist, bigoted,
Yeah.
ableist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. That's when you hear the free speech. And I'm like, well, you free speech, but there's also hate speech, and then there's you may have free speech, but there's not freedom from consequences. You know what I mean? You say
Mhm.
that when you're on the computer, but in real life,
Would you
things
say that
change.
to my face? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, I mean, also the way that the algorithm has changed in TikTok is really incredible because what, might have, like, first of all, people are making less money on TikTok now because
Hmm.
of the way that the administration has stepped in. And also, what gets to go viral, what gets shadow
Yeah.
banned or de-influenced, not shared as widely when you say certain terms, when you
Hmm.
criticize certain people,
I've
versus
noticed
what
that.
gets to go exactly, what gets to go viral. All of these things play a large part, and it often is a result of who holds power. You know what I mean? I can make an incredible video that will only get sent out to those 300 and something people on TikTok, and it's not because of the quality of my video that it didn't get sent out more,
Right.
because the engagement doesn't show that. It'll be because of what I talk about, who I talk about, and who I criticize and who I critique. So it's really really unfortunate that this white supremacy permeates all spaces, online, domestic, foreign, whatever.
Yeah. But it's so ironic to me that like liberal approaches are considered being sheep, but yet like we're we're doing all of this extra like education and like trying to disseminate information that's actually like referenced and cited and all this, and it's just like, but you all don't see that, like, you're literally just pawns in this whole system. And I don't know, like, existentialism is going to be the downfall of me, and like being aware of everything, because it just makes my head explode.
Yeah, I
Yikes.
mean the anti-intellectualism, the propaganda. I mean, all of these forces are very strong. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
especially
they
for
are.
people who have been propagandized from young ages. You know what I mean? When it's literally, that's why I'm like so very critical about what's being taught to children, because it does a
Mhm.
great job of shaping how you see the world, how you interact with the world, and how you respond and vote. You know,
Yeah.
when people call it, instead of, the Civil War being called, the War of Aggression, or you know what I mean, what was the Civil War about? Oh, states' rights. States' rights for what? States' rights to what? To own slaves, to enslave people,
Yeah.
and then it's like, a whole bunch of stuff. All that matters, and it shapes how you think as an adult. And then when you have a verbal community reinforcing the problematic, incorrect ideology, that gets, hooked and stays with you.
Yeah, it does. And it's reinforced heavily by the people around you. And that's the thing, is
Exactly.
it continues to be perpetuated. And so, yeah, that reinforcement history is very strong. So I thought of a question, and feel free, because this is, like, once again, free emotional labor. An argument that I've seen a lot of pushback on whenever I post about, like, I made a post recently on my own personal social media about, like, hey, I've just noticed when I set my settings on Uber or Lyft to female or non binary drivers, I only get men. And that's disturbing to me, because I'm selecting that intentionally because I'm traveling alone. I don't have my spouse with me. Not that I should even need my spouse with me, but like, that's the world we live in.
Hmm.
And he feels better if I have like a female or non binary driver, because he gets it.
Hmm.
uh, and the pushback was like, but it's not all men. And it's like, okay, but and the same thing happens when we talk about white men. So, like, talking about the nationalist group that was
Hmm.
pictured in the profile, well, not all white men are like this. And so you can't put us in a monolith, but we're saying the same thing about like black people. And so, like, to them the argument doesn't make sense. Like, to me the argument makes sense, because it's
Hmm.
like, here we are. But I'm just curious if you have like a succinct, really powerful way to respond to that, to kind of shut down that argument, or at least provide some context. And once again, feel free to not spend that emotional energy if you don't want
No,
to.
no, I like this. So the question is, how do you respond to someone saying not all men?
Not all men or not all white men.
Okay, yeah. Well, the thing is, but it's too many,
Hmm.
and I can't trust. I can't go in there. So it's like, it's how I feel about cops. I don't have the time to figure out if you're a quote unquote good cop or
Right.
not. You know
And
what I
there's no
mean?
back
I
channel.
Exactly. So I have to assume each one, each man, each cop, whatever is problematic. Now, you could, so just to be safe for myself, when it comes to, not all men, it's like, of course they didn't mean all men. If the person who was saying men meant all men, they would say all men. It's very easy to be clear. But,
Hmm.
you know, when you put the qualifier of most men, you could do that, but also the problem is then people might think it's not them when it is. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's like, no, you too. And then when people go to like all black people, it's like, well, one, you don't know black people, and two, the the statistics that people like to put out about black people are incorrect. And
And
then
it's
they
hard
don't
to
know the
prove them.
statistics exactly, and they don't know the statistics about white people, especially white men. You know,
Yep.
so I think that the problem is, whether I think that it's a question of whether or not you should even engage with somebody saying it's not all men, because because it's either do you not engage, or saying it's frankly too many of them and it's not enough of them that are correcting each other. not enough men step up to correct other men,
Oh
to
God,
to
right?
stop them from engaging in problem behavior. You know, because if there were, and it's the same thing with white men, not enough white men step in. In the black community, there's a very strong accountability system where where we hold each other accountable for a whole lot of stuff. Now that doesn't mean all black people hold
Right.
people accountable,
No one's
but
a
that
monolith.
means exactly no one's a monolith. But for the most part, our community, the way that we work is accountability is very important to us. And that's why you'll see that we'll learn that somebody is unsafe and we just will be like, okay, well, we don't mess with you anymore. A perfect
Yeah.
example is, and I think that goes to discernment as well. I think a perfect example is this dude, Grand Plattner. I don't know if you heard about him.
Oh,
He's a politician, and he's trying to become governor or whatever. And the first red flag was that he had a Nazi tattoo.
I was gonna say, ooh.
And then he had sexual abuse one, then two, and now like three or whatever. I don't even know which number it is. But like black people and I'm sure some Jewish people, we were like, we already said no from the first flag, which was the Nazi tattoo, which he said he
Right.
didn't know was a Nazi tattoo. I
But
was in the
people let that go.
army. Exactly. And people let that go and be like, oh no, he's changed. No, it's not good enough. You don't get to have a Nazi tattoo and then be,
Changed.
yeah.
Like you can fix
I
that.
so there's discernment, and then it's like people. There are certain people that are allowed to be forgiven or allowed to slide. You know what I mean? If you're a white man, you're allowed to have that. You're allowed to have all these strikes. I think a big reason why Zoran Mamdani wears a suit. People think, oh yeah, it's so hot in New York. You could take off the suit. You could take off the suit. But the thing is, he understands why he has to wear the suit. I and you understand why he has to wear the suit.
Right.
Because as soon as he stops wearing the suit, then that anti Muslim, anti brown racism is going to kick in, and the suit can protect from some of that. It can
Yeah.
mitigate some of it. It can't protect from all of it. But it's the same reason why, and I'm not even a big Obama fan, but Michelle Obama said that she decided that she would never get braids while she was the first lady. And then when she stopped being the
Right.
first lady, she felt like she finally could. There's a lot of like, these are things that uh, white people a lot of times don't think about simply because they don't know. They don't experience this. And if you don't have friends or you don't have these discussions, then you're never going to know. And it's hard to have those discussions if you don't feel safe. If you're not safe, no one's going to tell you.
Right. And on that
So,
same token, it's triggering for communities of color when we appropriate those very things that people of color try to remove from their identity to be safe. So like you mentioned the
mhm,
braids example. I think of a lot of women who are white get cornrows and everything, and it's like, why is that wrong? Well, let's think about it. Because you won't let a black woman do it without
mhm.
attacking her, but yet you think it's okay as a white person to do it. You're stealing that from their culture, their community. So like, think about the hypocrisy with that, if anything else. It's so
Yeah.
silly. I just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that I feel like in an hour or so I'll have a much better answer for your question of what to say about not all men. I sent you that I sent you that thing on TikTok. It was like I'm gonna start using not all men when it's something positive.
Something
That
positive, yeah. I know, I love
yeah.
that, and I'm gonna steal it. It's like there's also a follower who puts like feminine spins on everything, so like very, very feminist. And so it's basically like different examples, and like one of them that I can pull out of my butt right now is um, the father basically not watching the kid, but the mother having the kids. Oh, are you babysitting right now?
Yeah.
Is dad at work? Is dad, doing something else? So basically spinning it around on
Hmm.
these small things that have bothered me for years in culture. So yeah, it's the same thing. Now we can say not all men to positive things. Well, my husband brought me some flowers today unprovoked. Well, not all men.
Yeah.
Not all men.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I mean, I I think that the male loneliness epidemic, quote unquote, is really self-inflicted harm
It is.
of the effects of
We don't want you.
patriarchy being, yeah, we don't want them. And also it's like the negative effects of patriarchy are things that you probably are feeling that you still also refuse to dismantle,
Yeah.
so that you still benefit from. And it's like, people are like,
Stand.
oh, they're canceling me. It's like people don't want to be around an asshole. If you're
Yeah.
an asshole, if you're a jerk, people aren't going to want to support you. They're not going to want to see you. They're not going to want to associate with you. Those are the
Right.
consequences of your actions. If you want people to associate you, to be around you, to date you, be a better human. That's
Hmm.
really what it comes down to. And I think that there's also problems with males and men learning how to date because they think that they need to learn how to court women through porn, through movies,
Oh
through
yeah, for
men
sure.
that they think have a lot of women. So a
Yeah.
lot of the idealized man in a man's eyes is not the same idealized man as a man who is desired in a woman's eyes. So it's so interesting
Yeah. Very
seeing
different.
like, oh, this is a man who has a lot of women, so who I think he has a lot of women, so women must like him. Versus a woman who says this is who we want, and men will be like, y'all lying, no, no, no. And it's like, no, yes, that's it. Like, read, some of the books that they are interested in. Read, like, watch some of the movies, the rom coms.
Oh, I
Sometimes
hate
they're portrayed
rom-coms.
well, sometimes they're not. I mean, I hated The Notebook.
I'm
But
autistic. Like none of it makes sense to me. So it's
yeah,
like,
but I mean, there are ways to like be personable and to become attractive, and the the manosphere. I don't know if you heard about that term.
I have. Hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really like does that red pill or black pill to where
Yep.
men think that they need to have certain qualities or behaviors that are, excuse me, super problematic to get women.
I say barbaric, so you're
Yeah,
nicer than
yeah,
I am.
exactly. And the thing is, um, it's unfortunate that they don't have a good role model or a lot of good role models to look up to. Not all men need to be role models, but there should be ways to identify who is a good role model because one would think the president should be a good role model, but I would argue that that may have never been the case.
Uh,
And people who are celebrities, people in high seats of power aren't necessarily the people who should be idealized or followed after. But since they have that access to power and money and celebrity, they are.
it's funny because as you were talking about no role models, I thought back to like an argument I saw on your viral video, the most recent viral video, and it was like, well, black homes don't have black parents. The black fathers abandon them. And it's just like, is that your new narrative? Is that your new narrative? Because that's systemic, right? It's like the prison population argument. It's like, well, yeah, so how many people are actually incarcerated for, and this is just my opinion, silly, unnecessary drug related crimes?
Hmm.
Like, to me, I don't feel like that's doing anything. Incarceration does absolutely nothing for drug related crime. Um,
Exactly. I'm sorry, I just
and
wanted to
I,
pull
I
this
don't think
up.
they should be there.
Yeah. No, no. To your point, studies shows that black dads are more involved in activities with their children than any other groups found by
Right.
the
Argument
CDC.
dispute.
So, like, you know what I mean? This is just racist propaganda
Yeah.
where, black fathers are more involved, you know? So, that was one of the things. And I'm just like, this
It's
is,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's ridiculous. There's another thing. I
I would
feel
actually.
like, go ahead,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead. No, you do what you're doing.
Okay. I was gonna say I gotta look for this, but there's a lot of ways that people can find data and numbers and share them to weaponize those data.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that a lot of people try to weaponize is this idea that um, that black people are 13% of the country, but make up 50% of the crimes, when that's not true.
Right.
This is a percentage of arrests involving white men, where 55% of kidnappings are them, 56 are rape. You know what I mean? You can see all these
Arrest.
numbers, and they're 28% of the population, and they do all these numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just super
And this is why
problematic.
we don't feel safe with white men. This right here.
Yeah,
Because of the nature of these crimes.
exactly. There's another one. People will say, I just want to show it just because
Yeah.
I'm always trying to show data. Um, this one, share this. And they have these data. You know what I mean? It's similar data, and you can go to this website to learn more. But it's just these data exist, but people don't know about it. It's not as widely shared, and I feel yucky going in the
Yeah. I,
comments
I
trying
literally
to be
shudder.
like have this battle, and it's because like I don't I don't feel the need or the desire to try to say all white men bad or all white people bad. There are dangerous people of all races, ethnicities, and I think that whiteness as a construct is incredibly harmful, and people need to
Yeah.
deconstruct whiteness and white supremacy so that we can, move beyond it. And not talking about it is not going to fix it, but we need to talk about it and we need to deal with it. And the thing is, and I can't say this enough, white people need to be the ones to
Make the
combat,
change.
fight against, and deal with it
Yeah.
the most. And it comes
No,
with,
absolutely.
yeah, I've heard before white people will be around other white people, and then one white person will make a comment or a joke or say something that's clearly racist or bigoted, thinking that the other white person will join in or whatever. And it's something that like only happens white person to white person. Clearly, I can't talk to that experience, but it's like that's the opportunity you need to take to shut that
Yeah.
shit down.
My question is always, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, I can play the naive autistic person, and then watching them try to explain it is really great.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a flag to me. It's like maybe I'm hanging out with the wrong people. And my circle's very small, and that's fine. I can keep
Yeah.
it small and I can make it smaller. So
Yeah.
I don't need you if you're going to be like that. Yikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely in the hands of white people to do more of that work because we're the ones with the power. And ultimately, like, I don't know. Anytime I see statistics, anytime I see any sort of argument that basically favors white people, it's like you realize that that's self-perpetuated bias data.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that that is not acknowledged is just a huge issue. It's like, well, we don't have slavery anymore. We don't have, separation of different amenities and blah blah blah. It's like, but what you did was you basically you kicked people out on their asses, if you will, with no support.
Mm-hmm.
That's a systemic issue. And then it just continued to become an issue over and over and over again. And it just trickled down over generations. And the fact that you can't see that, I worry for your karma, Like, that's really
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. And,
But
and,
yeah,
and, and the
true.
Yeah, and the way that these data, I think that you had a great point, are collected. You know what I mean? Who's arrested for a
All
crime?
biased.
Well, who's monitored for criminality? One, and
Yep.
then what constitutes a crime? Who gets to select what's a crime? I mean, what was it? Nixon's administration admitted in 1994, I think it was,
Yeah.
that they said that, oh, well, we couldn't criminalize black people, so we tried to criminalize, what they did, and
Aspect of
then we
black
were able
people.
to. So you know what I mean? It goes into these things, and
So
it's
gross.
just Toni Morrison has this famous quote that I really love. I believe it's Toni Morrison. She says the purpose of racism is to waste your time. Basically, I'm killing the quote, but basically, it's to waste your time and to make you keep on fighting the racism, so that you spend all your time fighting the racism instead of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally instead of anything else.
Spending
And
your
I think
time on
about,
YouTube.
yeah, and I think that about that a lot. So it's like I always think, what's the value of me addressing this versus me talking about education or precision teaching or some of my other passions? And I have to hold both of those. You know what I mean? Teach the precision teaching and education, reading or whatever, at the same time that I also work on talking about the systemic racism, interpersonal, personal, structural, institutional racism, you know?
I feel like if you're not talking about both, though, you're not doing things the justice they need because everything is so interlaced with all of these isms that you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
It all has to do with each other. And I know that people would. I'm just imagining the boomer comments on Facebook at me saying that. But it's like, you make everything about race, you make everything about gender, you make everything about this. And it's like, but it is. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, if you separate the two, I don't feel like you're really giving context its appropriate place. And so, like, if you are a content creator, please make sure you're providing that context and, discuss the differences if that is important to, how you practice and all of that. So, I don't know, just not talking about that is definitely not the solution, like you said. We have to
Yeah.
be talking about these things. And the more that people kind of make those connections, oh, I never realized that's actually a systemic issue of oppression, then maybe we'll start getting somewhere. But yeah, definitely the arguments that are being made, I agree with you. There's a time to just walk away and not spend your emotional energy, which I still have to figure out.
Yeah, no, and then sometimes it's like it's finding that one response that is the one that you feel, but and the problem is though, like online, you have to realize that like people, the levels of depravity they're willing to go to, you have to decide
Very
if you're
different.
willing to go to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you'll somebody will be like, oh, abortion is never okay. I say, okay, well, what if your daughter was raped and she needed an abortion to save her life? And it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
still I wouldn't let her get it. And it's like you have to understand that people making these arguments are willing to go to that level. So what's the point of even engaging with them in the first place?
Yeah. And that's probably why your children don't talk to you as
Mm,
adults. So just
exactly.
saying. And like the
Exactly.
absent father nonsense, like I had a father who was emotionally absent, and while he was present throughout my entire education, honestly, I probably would have been better if he hadn't been present. So like,
Hmm.
let's argue that. Like,
Yeah.
come on. Everyone has such different experiences, and I make the joke now where it's like, I wonder if that person would adopt me as the daughter, and maybe I could make up for the father I actually had that just wasn't really present. So I don't know. There's so many different things we could talk about going in all these different directions, and I feel like all of it, kind of like to summarize what you'd said, and not do entire justice, but it's distraction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's distraction, and unfortunately, we can't move forward until we deal with it. But
Yeah.
then, when we deal with it, we can really like there's a saying by Fannie Lou Hamer, "Nobody's free until everybody's free," and I see that so much, and that's why I always like my ideals are find the most marginalized, the individual with the most intersections of
Mhm.
disenfranchisement, and see how they can be supported, and then you'll see that things for everybody else become better.
Yep.
And it always goes to me, the snow is on the steps and the snow is on the ramp, and the guy
Mm.
the adult is trying to let
So to
everybody into the
clear
school, yeah, and he's
the ramp
stepping
up.
clearing the steps, and the person in the wheelchair is like, hey, why don't you just do the ramp? And he's like, well, I'll do the ramp after I do the steps. And she's like, well, if you clear the ramp, all of us can go.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
it's
So
literally that
simple.
simple.
hate it here. I hate
Yeah,
it
yeah. And
here.
and part of our job is part of our work will be to deconstruct and remove and change these things. It's like there's work that we want to do, and then there's work we also have to do. I feel, and
Yeah.
sometimes they intersect, and it's work that you want to and have to do. But sometimes it's like I have to do both of these. Are you getting that beeping?
I'm not
Okay,
getting
so
it.
it's something. Okay, it's something happening on my end. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I close out apps and everything before we start, which has helped, I think. I didn't close out Steam though. No, that's not
Okay.
doing anything though. Um, yeah, I definitely agree. And I kind of I think about this sometimes. And initially, I thought about, can you be a behavior analyst and be like conservative minded and be ethical? And I mean, I say no. And I also feel that way about like higher education. Can you be in higher education and have those ideals? And are I'm certain I know the answer to this. Are any BCBAs or any professors in those comments arguing these facts? And that's the part that like I my brain doesn't stop. It's like, okay, but are they hiding? Is this somebody I work
Hmm.
with? Like I'm certain that the numbers are definitely like very few, if not very existent, but I know they're there,
Yeah. I mean, I think
probably.
that also, yeah, I think that also a lot of people think that politics and political ideology is separate from these things
Yeah,
when they're intertwined.
intertwined.
Like the potholes on the road are
Hmm.
political.
Yep.
Literally everything is political, from what you read to what shows up on your feed to the things that you think. I'm trying to keep the rhyming going. They're all political,
Hmm.
and to have an ideology that you can separate what is political and educational
Privilege.
or behavior analytical is privilege, like you said. You know what I mean? Those are inseparable. And once you start actually critically breaking those things down, you'll see that. But to have the ideology that these things are separate means that they don't affect you, probably. So you don't see them as, so you can see them as separate because it's like, oh, it doesn't affect me. When it's like my entire
It should
life
have you.
is, yeah, yeah. And it's like, you're a, like, I just need some people, it's like, if you're a white dude and you think it's not, it's like, well, you're a white dude. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
And you
just,
don't care to take perspective and understand that somebody's experience is different than yours.
or if I'm being charitable, you haven't been taught. You haven't had the environmental
That's
opportunities to
very
learn.
generous. That's
I
very
try to
generous.
be. I try to
Like,
be.
I don't
And I
do
think,
that.
yeah, I think it also happens to do with like how I know that I could come off as, how I know people will see me as, like being palatable. One of the things I noticed is like, side note, Hassan Piker. I don't know if you know Hassan Piker.
You're throwing
He's
out
like,
all these names. Okay.
he's political. He's like on Twitch and stuff,
Okay.
and he's a pretty good leftist. He just now started wearing suits because he's recognizing
Uh,
that
yeah.
he'll people will start listening to him more by wearing suits. So it's like that respectability politics. But I
Professionalism.
mean, yeah, exactly. Got people when you yell, I disengage.
I
It's like,
can't
well,
hear you
I'm
when you yell.
exactly. It's like, ugh, you know what I mean? So there's like, how much of the game do I want to play, but how much do I
Right.
also think, if I truly believe in behavior and science and how it evokes or elicits our behavior, I have to believe that there are environmental contingencies that are
Hmm.
operating on white men, like allowing them to either be kind of like your husband versus kind of like the people in my comments. You know what I mean?
Oh God,
How do you get a John Brown in a time of enslavers? You know what I mean? Like, there are environmental contingencies that have to operate upon your behavior to change the way you operate, the way you think, the way your verbal behavior is, shaped. All these things. Huh. We brought it back to behavior science. This is great.
we always do. That's the thing. Yeah, you're way more generous than I am. I don't know. Maybe it's my neurodivergence or whatever. And it's like all the things you're saying. Yes, I agree. But I'm just like, I'm tired, y'all. I don't want I don't want to give credit to any of it. But that,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what the trick is to get people to hear. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like it's a lost cause, and who knows. And some people it is. Some people, maybe for like the one commenter that you had that was positive,
Yeah.
that's the thing. And clearly people are liking content, people are seeing content that are not engaging with the content because they're like, I don't want to be targeted now.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, there's a bystander effect also happening, I
Yeah.
think. And so perpetuating the reinforcement and the bias and all of that. So I'd like to think that you are, like, and I say you as like advocacy spaces, there is
Mm-hmm.
a difference being made. It just may not be evident because people are in hiding because of their own fear and their own safety.
Yeah.
It's also like, show yourselves, we need you.
Yeah, yeah, and there are a lot of, I'm sure, positive comments. I stopped looking at the comments, so I wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah.
As we were talking today, I was
Shut
like,
them
"Oh
off.
wow, there are actually people there. There are hitters in here. This is great."
Right.
But for me, I I have to stay optimistic because if I don't, and I
Yeah.
mean, I always go between the nihilism, realism, optimism type, triangle that I'm bouncing between. Um, but I have to believe in behavior science because if I don't, then that means that people are incapable. People are, consistently, forever, always going to be. There is no I have a dream. There's
Yeah.
no reaching that mountaintop. There's none of that. You know what I mean? So I have to be charitable in a way that leaves room for desired change, for improvement, for the country that we live in to be the great promise that it was once given to be. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I I I I have to believe that, and I am I feel in great community when I meet people such as yourself. When I meet people and I work with people to to improve the quality of the world and make it better than what we left it with.
Yeah.
I feel like we make a huge difference, and it's like we can make a huge difference in someone's life by using behavior science to improve the way that they can communicate with the world to get what they need. But we could also make differences by educating, by sharing, by teaching. And sometimes it means we're gonna do it with a little bit of sass. Sometimes we're going to say something with a little bit of hate in our hearts because that's how we feel, because that's the way that the environment has shaped us. But it also helps us connect with other people to show like, hey, these are problems we're seeing that we need to call out. There's value to it. That sometimes people who I hate when people who have been around for a long time and don't do any of this tell me how they think I should do this. And a lot of times it's people I respect, and it's like, but not only do you not do this right now, in the past when you've done it, it didn't work. If you did it, and you expect me to do it your way, but you know, you didn't have the desired effect. Like, and I'm having a larger effect, at least in this ecosystem, than you've had. I mean, this is
Yeah.
where the math
Okay.
ain't mathin'. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And like, I love that description because I go through like cyclical burnout as in advocacy spaces. I think is very common, and we have to sometimes contrive our own environment to provide reinforcement for our own advocacy behavior because it's slim to none if you're looking for any sort of social validity.
Yeah.
Now, certain spaces, like I will argue, like TikTok, I get more like, hey, yeah, I agree, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, the reinforcing comments and everything. But if you're socially driven, do not go into advocacy because it
Yeah.
will destroy you. Luckily, I don't generally care what people think. But there was a time in my life that that would have absolutely annihilated my ego and my persona because I was a people pleaser. I've kind of grown past that, but finding those opportunities to provide our own reinforcement for what we're doing is so important, and that can't be spoken enough. And yeah, I think it's actually wonderful because, like, Skinner himself spoke about how, you have to set up the environment in a way that does provide that reinforcement for you. Otherwise, you're not going to continue to engage in certain behaviors that you're wanting to change or you're wanting to sustain. And so, um, the whole principle of the science is based on that. So I really like that, we always kind of bring it back to this and those concepts. So good job, us.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
thank
that.
you. I agree. And I think that one of the damn, I had it. I was listening so intently because I wanted to listen, not to respond, but to
I do that
understand.
too.
Um, but I think that dang, it's gone.
I know, I
What were
hate
you
when that
saying?
happens.
What were you saying in the beginning of that?
We have to provide our own reinforcement because the reinforcement is slim to none in
Oh,
advocacy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
There you go.
so also, thank you. You triggered it. You brought it back. Also, if you don't feel like you're one for the advocacy spaces online, maybe in the real world, in your community is better. I saw this TikTok of this person who was like, I used to be an internet debater for leftist ideologies, and I had to stop for my mental health. But I
Yeah.
opened up like a bookstore community space where we have like opportunities for people to come in and talk. Did you see it too?
No, but I love that. It's just
Yeah.
very,
So
what
like
a good
actually
idea.
meeting people, speaking with them in real life, not having to engage with the bots or the bigots, and then being able to educate. They had it was a disability space. They were handing out masks. They were teaching about racism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia. They were able to really critically engage with their direct community. So I think that those are really important too. You don't have to be on the internet saying these things. You can go out into your real world and find places, find locations, or even make them. I think that those are important.
If you're antisocial like me, you just hide on social media. So, but if you are
You
social, that's a really good alternative. I
I would
never would have
argue,
thought of that because it's like my nightmare.
I would argue you're not hiding, or at least if you are, you're not doing a good job.
Well, I feel like I hide in the fact that, like, in the public, I try to just, like, assimilate as
Yeah,
much as possible, of course. And, there's time and space for assimilation. But, yeah, I'm just going out into the public because I have to generally, or because I
yeah.
want to ride roller coasters. That's it.
Same, same. Forced to interact. I feel the same, especially, yeah. But I think that we've talked about a lot. I think that that's pretty good.
Do you want to address the potential
We could.
elephant in the American room about Nolan Xavier Wells, real quick?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's
Because we
let's
could
talk
probably
about
throw
them.
a. Because I want to make sure that we're like following this and tracking
Hmm.
it as
Yeah.
we get information.
So we're recording this on Tuesday, the day after. It's been found that. Do you have the story up? Do you want to share it?
I have a basic story up, but I don't know if it goes into the level of depth. Let me share what I have though. It's like a timeline of it.
Hmm. So basically, Nolan Xavier Wells was the black man in this photo. He went on a boating trip or whatever to celebrate Independence Day with his friends who are all white. They came back with his phone and without him. The next day, a body washes up on shore. The mom was able to identify the body as his, and questions are what happened? Apparently, one of the boys' fathers is a judge. They're all lawyered up all of a sudden. And it's like, hey, what happened? The mother has kind of asked for them to have space to grieve at this point. Um, but it's a scary situation that is not unfamiliar. A lot of people are saying, watch out for being the token black friend or the only black friend in a
Yep.
group of white people. I mean, especially it's in Mississippi, which is where the most amount of
Red
hangings
flag.
occur.
Yep.
Yeah, and all
You
that
you mean
stuff.
lynchings, right? Because
Lynchings,
that's what I would
yes,
say.
yes,
I would say
yes.
lynch. You can say hanging. I'll say lynch.
Yeah, I mean, because there's ways to lynch people without hanging them. Um,
That's true.
so um, if you let me share my screen, there's like a similar
Oh,
story
yep.
about this woman. So they're saying that this case seems fishy, where it's this woman. who was 40, who died in November 2018 in Georgia. She attended an adult sleepover with mostly white female friends. The next morning, she was found dead in the backyard. And this goes to there's an understanding among black people that that anybody, especially white people, are allowed to produce and inflict an infinite amount of violence on black people, and black people are not allowed to defend themselves. This, will be called a suicide. Any black person found hung or hanged will be called a suicide. Um, they'll probably say that there was no foul play in Nolan's death. You know what I mean? That's the way that our justice system was created and still operates to this day.
Once again, it's all systemic.
Yeah,
Oh, I hate it here. And it's in the South, the deep, deep South. And yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, I wanted to make sure we put a pin in that so that way we could kind of come back to it as we gain information and insight. So we can say, hey, we said it before it actually comes out that way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm highly skeptical. I think that they did something to him. I mean,
Oh,
I would never go out anywhere and then come back without everybody that left. And I do a lot of boating,
right?
and we always like even boating at night is very different than boating during the day. And now there's a lot more like I've been boating all my life, so the way that alcohol laws and rules apply now to boating compared to how they used to is incredibly different. Now in the South, they may not be as up to date now, but I'm sure they still have the similar rules where it's like when it comes to drinking and boating, it is very seriously managed, at least here in California,
Generally.
compared to when it was when I was growing up, when it's just like nobody cared. It was literally like, you know,
Yeah.
how I imagine like the 40s and 50s when it came to drinking, no seatbelt. I only had 6 beers, officers. Okay, then you're fine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Type stuff. Um, so there's a lot of problems that are around this, and I mean we'll
It
see.
doesn't look right.
It doesn't. And, you know,
That's the thing. And like, do you really trust the investigators who are looking into this? Because it's like, are they friends with the families? If this is a small town in the
hmm
deep south, everyone's gonna know everybody. Everyone's gonna be
hmm
connected. And like, I just think about, um, I just read the Chanel Miller autobiography. She was the victim of Brock Allen Turner,
hmm
the Stanford swimmer, and
the rapist.
yeah, the rapist, who now goes by Alan Turner, by the way, doesn't go by
Yeah.
Brock anymore, and lives in Dayton, Ohio. Just for the record for everybody. So if you're looking
hmm
for this guy, this rapist, it reminds me of that because he was so connected in these different white communities. They all basically were able to lessen his sentence, lessen the severity of the crime, but make it look like the half Chinese victim was the person who was responsible for all of this. And it's like,
Yeah.
she was unconscious, y'all. Like, how
Yeah.
can you? So yeah, it's how connected you are, and I guarantee in this situation, those boys are very well connected within their community. So
Yeah.
nothing will come of it.
Exactly. And that's the society we live in.
Hmm.
So I mean, and as a black
Sad note,
person,
but
yeah, as a black person, next week we'll have another black person
yep,
that was murdered in a
yeah.
conspicuous way.
Statistically, we will.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, and this is the psychological torture that is like, do you stay informed so that you could potentially
Yeah,
move more safely? Because I was just
that's
in
true.
Mississippi 2 weeks ago, and I did
Yeah,
not go out, and I'm back. You know what I mean? Versus, do you not engage with the news to try to stay more mentally healthy, but potentially be moving in spaces where you're at risk and at harm and you can be at harm, but you don't know because you weren't up on the most recent news. Like it's
right.
a damned if you do, damned if you don't type
It
situation.
is. You have to decide your limits for yourself, and it's going to vary. It's so individualized, and like that can also be dynamic. We talk
Yeah.
about the dynamics of disability or social issues and stuff like that, the same thing applies here. You know, one day we might have more capacity for managing and navigating the news. Other days we may not have as much, and I think it's important to kind of know our limits and give ourselves grace.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still struggling to identify mine sometimes, and that's hard. So
Yeah.
yeah, do your best
Yep. And while you do your best, make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Um,
and share us with an enemy.
yep.
Okay,
Share us with an enemy.
comments.
Make an enemy in the comments. Make a friend.
Share us with
Yeah.
all the self-loathing white men that are going to get real angry at this. Make sure you share it with
Mm-hmm.
them in particular.
Yep. Yep. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.